Stranger Things 5 has got to be the most controversial season of Stranger Things. Everybody online is talking about how the writing is kinda whack. The most recent episode of Volume 2, Episode 7, has been rated the lowest episode of Stranger Things on IMDb. And Stranger Things Season 5 is currently sitting at a 56% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So, is Stranger Things Season 5 really as bad as everyone's saying it is? Well, in my opinion, I don't think so. I don't think it's as bad as everyone's saying it is, but I think there is a lot of issues with it. So today, we're going to be putting all the characters into a little tier list, and we're going to see which ones fare better against the others. Everybody loves seeing these characters on screen, but honestly, some of them have kind of been butchered this season. So let's start with the worst and go to the best. Also, I think it should be obvious, but spoilers for Stranger Things Season 5, Episodes 1 to 7. People have made fun of how stiff Millie Bobby Brown feels while acting as Eleven, but honestly, even if she were acting better, I don't think it would make up for the fact that her character really doesn't have that much to do this season. I thought that Eleven was supposed to be the main character of Stranger Things, but apparently, due to the fact that Will's now the spotlight, they just kind of forgot to give Eleven anything to do. She doesn't really have any emotional moments overall, and she's just kind of a huge letdown. So we're going to start off by putting Eleven into the C tier. Now this might be a hot take, but I'm really not a big fan of Erica. I never really have been. I think her inclusion in the story is fine. I just don't really like how she's a stereotype and how her character is very one-dimensional. She's honestly just not very interesting or likable. I really don't understand why people like her. I'm very perplexed when characters in movies and shows just act like assholes and people just like them. It's very odd. So, for me, Erica's going in the D tier. She's annoying. I don't like her. Now, I'm not gonna lie. When they first showed that Callie was gonna be in the new season in Episode 4, I was pretty hyped. It's without saying that Episode 7 of Season 2, the one with Callie in it, is easily one of the worst episodes, if not the worst episode in the entire series. It serves absolutely no purpose, and it's really just a poorly written episode. However, now that they decided to bring her back, I was actually kind of glad, because for so long I was wondering what on earth someone with Eleven's powers was doing just running about, not being involved in the plot at all. But thankfully, Now's gonna get my answers. And honestly, I thought she'd be pretty helpful and contribute a lot towards the plot. But honestly, ever since Episode 4, when they revealed her, she's literally done nothing. I'm not exaggerating when I say that she's the most useless character in the entire series. You would think that the character with fucking superpowers would be able to help the team in some way, but no. There are literally so many instances where she can use her powers and just doesn't. Like, what about that scene where Eleven has to destroy those security cameras? Surely Callie can just make up some illusions and get past them. But no, she just has Eleven break the cameras instead. Also, I would like to make it known that the only reason why the military is able to follow them is because they break the security cameras. So if Callie just used her powers, then they would not have this issue. Also, I am straight up not convinced that Callie wants to help anybody on the team. She's literally so useless, and it's honestly just so frustrating how little she contributes to the plot. Eleven could have also found out about the whole military plan without Callie. The writers could have thought of some way to make that work. So other than that, Callie literally doesn't do anything. And honestly, I'm not even sure what the point in bringing her back was. Like, why would you bring back a character just to give them no lines and nothing to do? I also think that Callie saying how Eleven needs to die in order for the military to stop creating more versions of Henry is a very stupid thing. Because you see, Henry got his powers from Dimension X. So as long as the bridge is still open, they can make more people like Henry. So Eleven dying isn't the only way that the military's plan will fail. This literally makes no sense. Callie just doesn't make any sense. She's honestly just such an annoying character, and honestly, I'm with Hopper on this one. I'm sick of listening to her talk. She's an easy D tier for me. And speaking of Hopper, I am very upset that Hopper's character has been getting the treatment that she's been getting this season. I'm sorry, but Hopper's character is just not very interesting. It feels like Hopper's been kind of having the same character development for the past, 3 seasons. They really don't know how to give him anything nuanced or interesting to do. And every single conversation is just him being like, oh, I have to protect 11. It's like, dude, I understand that. But there's a certain point where it just becomes redundant. He doesn't really grow or change in a nuanced way, and he's just very boring to watch. I really love David Harbour. I love his acting, and I think he's really good in this. But his character development just isn't really that good. So overall, I'm going to give him a C tier. And speaking of another OG character who hasn't been getting a lot of development, we have Joyce. And I'm also not particularly happy with how they've been treating Joyce. It feels like she's only really here to reassure Will about what he's doing and tell him that everything's going to be okay. Her character development is seriously non-existent, and she kind of has the same problem with Hopper, where she's falling back on her type of character. She keeps falling back on being the worried mother of the group, but she doesn't really get anything else interesting to do, and thus it just makes her very boring. So, because she kind of has the same problem as Hopper, I'm going to put her in the same place at the C tier. I am 1000% convinced that they just had no idea what to do with Mike in this season. For the life of me, I cannot think of a single thing that he's done this season. He's definitely up there with one of the most useless characters in the show. And that's kind of an issue with Stranger Things. Oftentimes, there are so many characters in a given season, it's kind of hard to evenly distribute the plot amongst all of them and give them all interesting things to do. It's honestly just so sad to see one of the original 5 members of Stranger Things get shafted like this in the new season. So, I'm going to be honest here and say that Mike is low-key a D tier for me. I'm sorry. Honestly, though, I think one of the original 5 who has not been completely butchered is Lucas. Lucas is actually pretty decent in this season. I love that he gets some nice emotional moments with Max, and his contribution to the plot is very useful. He gets a couple things to do, but nothing really that huge. I'm perfectly fine with him just being there for Max and being a good-ass boyfriend. Good job, Lucas. You get the good boyfriend award. So with that being said, I'm going to put Lucas in a solid B tier. Speaking of Max, though, I am very happy with how they're treating her this season. Max is getting a lot of important things to do this season. I think she's really cool. She has a really great relationship with Holly. And it's really cool seeing her kind of be this mentor figure. Also, a lot of scenes with her and Holly are just really fun to watch, and she's got some very intense moments. And I honestly really like how her character is being written. Although, I have no idea why she wasn't sprinting towards the portal while Lucas was playing that song. Like, dude, you hesitated last time and it closed. I sort of thought you'd have more urgency this time. But anyways, Max is a pretty good character, so she'll get a solid A tier from me. And speaking of Holly, she's also great. She's honestly probably one of the best parts of the show. Her development feels very natural, she's very integral to the plot, she gets a lot of important things to do, and yeah, I don't really have much to say about her. I'm kind of just glad that she's a character who's getting good character development. Sort of just wish we could have said that about some of the other characters. But for now, I think I'm going to give Holly a solid A tier. Now, I'm putting Jonathan and Nancy together in this section because of their infamous breakup scene, which I think we need to talk about for a second. Honestly, this breakup scene was incredibly confusing to watch. Like, the first time I watched this, I didn't even know if they were breaking up or not. I'm glad that I'm not the only one who was confused as to whether or not this was a breakup. On one hand, I'm glad that they're deciding to break up because if I'm being perfectly honest, for multiple seasons, Jonathan and Nancy have zero reason to like each other. Like, during season 4, I genuinely forgot that they were together. I didn't even know why they were together. And Jonathan's character has been sorely lackluster this entire time. But on the other hand, I kind of wish they made the dialogue a bit more clear with what the hell was going on. Because during this scene where they're supposedly breaking up, they say stuff like, I love you, and, you know, I don't know about you guys, but that's normally not something you say while you're breaking up with someone. That's like low-key the opposite. However, I do think Nancy's character is pretty good overall, but I wouldn't have minded if the scene ended up with a death from one of them. I think it would have raised the stakes and made things a bit more impactful for the both of them. And as for Jonathan, as I mentioned, his character has been incredibly lackluster for the better part of 2 seasons. It seems like Jonathan's always just complaining about whoever comes up with a good idea for some reason. I literally have no idea why he does this. He's literally so useless and he doesn't do shit. Although I am glad that this scene does give their characters both some closure in terms of their relationship. It felt very needed and it was organic. So I'm glad they didn't do that whole bullshit, oh, I'm going to propose to you and this is going to fix everything thing, because honestly that wouldn't have made sense and it wouldn't have worked. So yeah, it's been a bit of a rough start for Jonathan, but I think his conclusion was good. I'm perfectly fine with Nancy's character too. So with that being said, I'm going to give Jonathan a C and I'll give Nancy an A. Dude, Derek's funny as hell, man. I have no complaints about Derek. He's chill as hell. I love his inclusion in the plot. And bro, when he said your mom to Vecna, that actually sent me. That shit was hilarious. So yeah, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. It's great. He's been really funny and I haven't had any issues with him. So, Delightful Derek is going to get an A tier. I think Steve and Dustin are the only characters who have genuinely not been touched by the bad writing. Steve and Dustin's whole argument throughout the entire season felt very organic. The scene with him arguing and fighting with each other is honestly so impactful. Steve wanted to tell Dustin the truth, but it really hurt him. And although it did hurt, Steve wasn't really wrong. I think it's also great because normally Dustin is the very happy-go-lucky character and he's making lots of jokes, so it's kind of refreshing to see him a bit more bitter and to see him grieving. It's a refreshing change and I like it. I do like the detail that during this whole scene with them fighting, Steve never fights back against Dustin. He never hurts him, he genuinely wanted to help Dustin and he wanted to calm him down. Overall, I think their interactions have been incredibly organic. Their character development has been great, and they're one of the only characters who's not been hit with the bad writing. So yeah, Steve and Dustin, they are both easy S tiers for me. I really love Robin. Once again, she's a very consistent character, and she's got a lot to do. She's simultaneously helping Will with his troubles while also having her own stuff going on with Vicky. I think she's the perfect balance of her own problems and dealing with other people's issues as well. Not to mention that I think Maya Hawke is just perfect as this character, and I really love every single one of the scenes that she's in. She's amazing, and I have zero complaints about her. I've heard some people say the dialogue with her is kind of off, but honestly, I think it suits Robin's character. And as I said, I got no problems with it. She's an easy S tier. I don't care what y'all say. She's the best. I gotta say, I've never been a fan of Will's character. But holy shit, am I glad that they improved his character this season. Finally, they're giving him stuff to do. I'm so glad that his inclusion in the plot isn't as simple as him just rubbing the back of his neck and being like, oh guys, something's happening. Honestly, throughout seasons 1 and 4, he kind of felt like a plot device rather than an actual character. But during this season, he's got plenty to do. And I know a ton of people have discussed his whole coming out scene, but honestly, I don't think it's too bad. Although I sort of do question why certain characters are here. Like, I get why Dustin is here and, Mike, like, they're his best friends, but why is Dustin's science professor there? Like, did he really need to hear all of this? But overall, I'm very happy with Will's character development. He's very good. I think him having powers makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I think he's been dealt with very well. So I'm really glad that we have a good character from the OG5. So with that being said, I'm going to give Will a solid S tier. It's safe to say Vecna has easily been the most consistent part of the entire show. He's intimidating, he's menacing, he's got a great-ass design, and he's honestly just an absolute aura-farming king. I don't have a lot to say about Vecna, but I think he's just a very solid villain. He's incredibly menacing, and he's just great. Again, easily one of the most consistent parts of the show. He's going to get an easy S tier from me. And there you have it. Those are all the characters in Stranger Things. I'm not going to talk about any of the other side characters because, honestly, I don't really have a lot to say about them, and they don't really belong on this tier list anyways. Overall, I think Season 5 isn't really that bad. It's kind of a mixed bag. I'm personally enjoying it, but I understand that the writing isn't really that great. Although I will say the writing isn't really objectively good or objectively bad. It's sort of all over the place. If you look at characters like Steve or Dustin, they're handled very well and very consistently. But if you look at someone like Callie or Eleven, they're not really handled that well. Overall, I don't think Stranger Things Season 5 is that bad at all, But I guess we'll just have to see how this series ends in the finale. So overall, I'm going to give Stranger Things Season 5 a 7 out of 10. And we'll have to see if this changes in the finale. So, thanks for watching, guys.